Sunday morning, the warm sun came up and pop. Out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. He started to look for some food. One Monday he ate through one apple, but he was still hungry. One Tuesday he ate through 2 pears, but he was still hungry. One Wednesday he ate through 3 plums, but he was still hungry. One Thursday he ate through 4 strawberries, but he was still hungry. One Friday he ate through 5 oranges, but he was still hungry. One Saturday he ate through 1 piece of chocolate cake, 1 ice cream cone, 1 pickle, 1 slice of Swiss cheese, 1 slice of salami, 1 lollipop, 1 piece of cherry pie, 1 sausage, 1 cupcake, and 1 slice of watermelon. That night he had a stomach ache. The next day was Sunday again. The caterpillar ate through 1 nice green leaf, and after that he felt much better. No, he wasn't hungry anymore, and he wasn't a little caterpillar anymore. He was a big fat caterpillar. He built a small house called a cocoon around himself. He stayed inside for more than 2 weeks. Then he nibbled a hole in the cocoon, pushed his way out, and he was a beautiful butterfly.
Grazie. Ich war auch in einer Raupengruppe in meiner Kita und meine Erzieherin hat mir dieses Buch sehr oft vorgelesen. Jetzt kann ich das auf meine Art und Weise lesen. Und ja, ich fange jetzt an zu lesen. Nachts im Mondschein lag auf einem Blatt ein kleines Ei. Und als einen schönen Sonntagmorgen die Sonne aufging, hell und warm, da schlüpfte aus einem Ei eine kleine, hungrige Raupe. Sie machte sich auf den Weg, um Futter zu suchen. Am Montag fraß sie sich durch einen Apfel, aber satt war sie noch immer nicht. Am Dienstag fraß sie sich durch 2 Birnen, aber satt war sie noch immer nicht. Am Mittwoch fraß sie sich durch 3 Pflaumen, aber satt war sie noch immer nicht. Am Donnerstag fraß sie sich durch 4 Erdbeeren, aber satt war sie noch immer nicht. Am Freitag fraß sie sich durch 5 Apfelsinen, aber satt war sie noch immer nicht. Am Sonnabend fraß sie sich durch ein Stück Schokoladenkuchen, ein Eiswaffel, eine Sauergurke,
Swiss cheese, 1 slice of
eine
salami,
Scheibe Käse,
1 lollipop,
ein Stück
1
Wurst,
piece of cherry pie,
ein
1
Lolli,
sausage, 1 cupcake,
ein
and 1
Stück
slice of watermelon.
Früchtebrot, ein Würstchen, ein Törtchen und ein Stück Melone. An diesem Abend hatte sie Bauchschmerzen. Der nächste Tag war wieder ein Sonntag. Die Raupe fraß sich durch ein grünes Blatt. Es ging ihr nun viel besser. Sie war nicht mehr hungrig, sie war richtig satt. Und sie war auch nicht mehr klein, sie war groß und dick. Sie baute sich ein enges Haus, das man Kokon nennt.
Zweimal eine kleine Raupe.
Mehr als 2 Wochen lang.
Und was hat die gemacht?
Dann knabberte sie sich ein Loch in den Kokon, zwängte sich draußen und
Sie war so verfressen, dass sie nicht mehr aufhören konnte mit dem Essen. Sie hat Blätter gegessen, Erdbeeren, Apfelsinen, Birnen, Äpfel, Pflaumen.
That night He had a stomach ache.
Und dann hatte sie ihren, ich weiß nicht, wie man das nennt.
Ist schon okay. Was hat sie gemacht?
Also dann hatte sie so einen Steinkörper ein Jahr lang und dann war sie ein großer bunter Schmetterling.
Oh.
Mit allen Farben, die sie gegessen hat.
Oh, wow.
Das heißt Kokon.
Ist das Ende?
Ja.
Okay, danke, Sally.
Bitte.
Es handelt um eine kleine Raupe, die sich durch alles fraß, was sie fand. Zum Beispiel Kuchen, Bonbons, Obst und Gemüse. Als es am Ende so verfressen war, dass sie nichts mehr essen wollte, verwandelte sie sich in ein Kokon und schlief darin ein Jahr. Danach wurde sie zu einem bildhübschen Schmetterling.
Special Savvy Contemporary Joint. We're very happy to have all of you with us. I would like to start by giving a word of thanks to all the wonderful Savvy people that have worked massively to make this possible in the past days. I would also like to thank the Boiler Room crew for helping us in terms of technology and advices here and there. And most especially thank our storytellers, our children, Laron, Edo, Jackie, Sadi, Zia, Matilda, and Amiri for the incredible work the next generation of Savis representing. It's a great pleasure to have all of you with us. For this prelude to the Raupenimmersattism project, the affluent society as consumed society, or the myth of endless production and consumption. The project takes its cue from that caterpillar, that story that we all read to kids, of the caterpillar that is never full, that eats and is never satisfied, which is kind of an allegory to the, I would say, neoliberal capitalist system we all live in, that promises extreme production and overconsumption as a solution to everything. So we would like to take this chance to think about the society, as Fatou Diome said, the fight against poverty is not a question of means, it is a question of politics. So how do our societies function today? You know, we live in some very affluent societies, some very rich societies, but you find people eating from the trash cans, sleeping on the pavements. So how does that reconcile with that promise that capitalist promise of excess production and excess consumption as the solution. But I think it's also very important, just very important to think about these things today, at a time when we are told to isolate, which is definitely very important to combat the virus that has, put the world down on its knees. But what does this then mean for those freelancers, those workers who do not have heavy bank accounts, or those people that live from a hand-to-mouth basis in different parts of the world, those people that live on a day-to-day basis that do not come from societies with extreme social systems that will pick them up and give them 5,000 euros or something, to keep them going. So I think it's important to think about these things today, and also what enables these welfare systems. So these are things we would like to talk about. But on this day, and the reason we're doing this today, although it's a bigger project, we thought of starting today with this prelude because of the International Workers' Day. And we'd like to take this opportunity to think with and sing praise for all kinds of workers, of the Mbambes, the motorboys, the puspus, the sauveteurs around the world, the invisible and visible workers, the mothers that are taking care of children and not considered workers. We like to reflect on all kinds of exploitative labors, works reserved for certain peoples in certain communities, right? And also the stigmas that are on certain, labor forms. We would like to think about those things. We also like to use this opportunity to question what kind of a world do we live in which, some people are identified only with the kind of work they do. So what you do defines you in the society rather than anything else. And also we like to think of, this myth of overproduction as the solution and overconsumption as the solution. So I would like to do my introduction tangentially by reading parts of 3 poems that I find very important. And I will start straight with, Hugh Masekela and the lyrics of the legendary piece Stimela. There is a train that comes from Namibia and Malawi. There is a train that comes from Zambia and Zimbabwe. There is a train that comes from Angola and Mozambique, from Lesotho, from Botswana, from Swaziland, from all the hinterland of Southern and Central Africa. This train carries young and old African men who are conscripted to come and work on contract in the golden mineral mines of Johannesburg and its surrounding metropolis. 16 hours or more a day for almost no pay. Deep, deep, deep down in the belly of the earth. When they are digging and drilling for that shiny, mighty, evasive stone, or when the dish that mush food into their iron plates with the iron shank, or when they sit in their stinking, funky, filthy, flea-ridden barracks and hostels, they think about the loved ones they may never see again, because they might have already been forcibly removed from where they last left them, or wantonly murdered in the dead of night by roving, marauding gangs of no particular origin, we are told. They think about their lands, their herds that were taken away from them with a gun, bomb, tear gas, and the cannon. And when they hear that choo-choo train, a jogging and a popping and a smoking and a pushing and a pumping and a firing and a steaming and a chicking and a wah, wah, they always curse the coal train that brought them to Johannesburg. The second poem is from Ama Ata Aidu, the legendary Ghanaian poet, with the title Speaking of Hurricanes, from Machere, Mugu, and all other African exiles. 1. My sister, have you noticed how around August, September every year, Africa gathers her storms and hurls them from across the Atlantic to poor Americas and the poorer Caribbean? Gilbert, Sullivan, Victor Hugo, blustering savage masculine. Oh, the ruination they leave behind. Leveled homes, torn cables, poisoned water, and too many lives snuffed out or at best broken. Just reckoning the damage is whirlwind of sorts. And we almost thought, how clever of Africa, until we looked around us and stopped short on our way to jubilation. 2. See, Africa had always kept the more interesting of commotions for herself. Years of economic and political tornadoes on our courtyards, centuries old gales that blew our hopes up, down, left, right, anywhere and everywhere except forward to fulfillment. We know tyrannical and despotic winds that whisk away some of our ablest bodies and strongest minds to our conquerors' doorsteps, where they cut cane, pick cotton, and reel garbage. These days, the sit, African men sit, able-bodied, strong minds and all, guarding private property or staring at nothing at all, while African women in various forms of civilized bondage are still and forever wiping baby snot and adult shit, bourgeois black and imperial white. Who cares? I leave it there and jump to Rendra. Rendra, as you know, was a legendary Indonesian poet who wrote this poem just sometime after the Second World War. It is titled Prostitutes of Jakarta Unite. The prostitutes of Jakarta, the greatest and the least, have been crushed, haunted. They are frightened, lost, offended, and embarrassed. Regret as you may, but don't despair, or allow yourselves to be sacrificed. Prostitutes of Jakarta, arise now, comb your hair. Having sorrowed, it is your turn, not just to defend yourselves, but to attack. So, regret as you may, but do not allow yourselves to be sacrificed. Sarina, tell them how you were called to the ministerial suite and how he spoke long and deeply to you about the national struggle. Then suddenly, without even finishing what he was saying, calling you the inspiration of the revolution, undid your brow. And you, Dasima, tell the people how all the leaders of the revolution embraced you in turn, speaking of the prosperity of the masses and the flame of the revolution, while their trousers were wet and their bodies sprawled beside you, their bolts too rapidly shut. The politicians and senior civil servants are a tight bunch of rogues. Their congresses and conferences couldn't run without you. You who can never say no because of the terror of hunger, the yoke of poverty, and your long futile search for work. School diplomas were useless. The section heads would only open the door of opportunity if you opened your legs. And outside government will only run down businesses with no vacancies. The leaders' revolution was a revolution for gods. They fought for heaven and not for this earth. A revolution by gods has never produced more jobs for the ordinary people. You are a part of the proletariat they have created. So, regret as you may, but don't despair or allow yourselves to be sacrificed. Prostitutes of Jakarta, stop being ashamed. When I read the papers, how those clowns persecute you, accuse you of being the source of all of the nation's disasters, I am enraged. You are my friends. I can't have this. God, what clown mouth, what foul mouth. They have even politicized sex. My sisters, it is harder to ban you than a political party. They must give you work. They must return your standing. They too must bear the weight of their mistakes. My sisters, unite. Take up sticks. Wave your brass on the ends of them. Carry them around the town in procession, waving them like flags they have disgraced. Now it is your turn to make demands. Tell them that recommending the persecution of prostitutes without also recommending marrying them too is nonsense. Prostitutes of Jakarta, my sisters, do not tremble before men. You can easily strip the fakes, double your prices, and let them flounder. Strike for a month, confuse them, and soon they will be committing adultery with their brothers' wives. That is it from me. Thank you. Pass it on to Elena Agudio.
Hello. I don't know if you see me, but kind of get a response. Thank you, Bonaventure. Thank you to all the team, to our Rana that is behind this scene, and our colleagues here with us online. Not only the ones moderating afterwards, Arlette, Ndakose, and Antonia Lampi, but also the other ones that have been curating this project with us. Kelly Krugman, Antonio Mendes, Lynn Balatbat, our managers, Lema Sikod, our head of communication, Anna Jäger, and they're all here with us because we are constantly in communication, receiving messages. But also thanks to all the speakers that will join us after my second introductions. So Beatrice Gakuba, Siraj Izhar, Emilia Roig, Bouba Touré, and M, an agricultural worker from the Piana di Gioia Tauro, who prefers to remain anonymous. Again, I want to thank also all the children, because yes, it was quite moving to hear them. Laron, Edo, Yaki, Matilda, and Amiri. But also, and especially, I and we all together have to thank our founders, the Berlin City Tax and the Senatsverwaltung für Kultur und Europa. So, briefly, following Bonaventure's incipit, that was quite inviting and strong, I want to welcome here everybody. Good evening, dear Savis online, dear friends and comrades, dear close and also distant people. As Bonaventure beautifully stressed, we're here online this time to celebrate the International Labor Day, remembering and thanking all those workers and activists that across latitudes and decades, across space and time, have been fighting to ensure to laborers the right of leisure and rest, the right to have time beside the working hours, to have space for caring about love, about autonomy and liberty, to perform inactivity, idleness, contemplation, and even hedonistic self-indulgence. The right actually to the otium, and I want to use this Latin word here because interestingly, as I was discussing with Bonaventure and some colleagues, sometimes in one of our many online meetings, and also often agitated discussions that we had in this past week. Its etymology of otium has nothing to do with indolence, and it is from the negation of this term that the concept of business and work comes. The negotium, that is the nec otium, the non-otium, which was the activity, the involvement in public affairs and administration, and generally the doing of business, from which the word negotiate derives. So the otium was the time to cultivate life, knowledge, and pleasure, and was fundamental for the performance of good citizenship. As I was saying, we're here today to honor those that forced our governments to regulate the length of a working day, fighting against capitalist excesses and abuses, and who introduced the principle of the 8-hour working day or the 48 hours week. A right that today, with the circumstances of the pandemic, seems to be at risk in different contexts and spaces, where ruling elites, governments, and of course corporations are plotting to erode the meaning of battles that have been performed for more than a century across the globe. The rhetoric of a necessary post-pandemic economic recovery, we know already, will certainly be one on the shoulders of the precariously employed and of the working classes. So from actually what I'm hearing and reading from friends, and today it was a Facebook post by Sudaprata Sengupta, in India, public authorities are considering a proposal to amend a section of the Factories Act from 48, which was stipulating the 8-hour working day. In fact, it appears that they want to increase working days to 12 hours and allowing wage cuts and freezes and increasing these hours of labor for the and with the excuse of the intensification of production. Today, the 1st of May, many were the global solidarity actions of the working classes across the globe. With this short evening program, we want also to contribute humbly to this chain of solidarity. And in our small and particular way, we want to come together to pay homage to all these fighters and to all the workers, especially the ones who have been active and in the front lines, in emergency positions during these times of lockdown, to all those that have performed and are every day performing invisible and essential labor and care that kept and keeps us alive. To honor those in distress for the sudden loss of wages, all those who are not even given the dignity of a job or to hold working permits and health insurances. To all mothers, parents, and children, to all those who are daily threatened by the racist, classist, machist, homophobic, and transphobic structures of our society. As we made it clear in our title, Raupenimmersattism, a prelude, this is a prelude to a story that I read probably more than 100 times to my sons, prelude to a story about labor, about hunger, a story about change, a story that we want to tell about economics, about deflation, deceleration, but also about dazzling surprises. My son Eduardo, as you heard in the sound recording that my colleague Arlette and Dacose beautifully organized and remixed with our Savage children, was not only always awed by the bulimic attitudes of the Raupe, the caterpillar, but also astounded by the sudden twist of fate that brought the caterpillar to become the most beautiful butterfly. My son, as he says, he was a Raupe himself because he was in the kindergarten in the Raupengruppe. And for him, being a Raupe was something that was always fascinating, but also confusing him. He was one of the many children that often suggested us to stop with our bulimic and workaholic attitudes and was asking us to learn how to fly. In the past weeks, you probably realized amidst the outburst of the pandemic, we have been exercising with forms of deceleration and I would say deflation. And we've been practicing an exercise of epoche. If you're not familiar with the term, it's like meaning a moment of suspension, of doubting and questioning and observing what was happening. So while working and debating intensely internally, we've been focusing on listening predominantly. We've been listening to our children, pausing our acceleration to regain inspiration. With, from, and for them, we connected to friends, some in the borderlands and some others in the front lines. But also we reconnected with our paces, reattuning to our rhythms, and I speak maybe for myself, trying to catch up with them, because oftentimes we were just running behind them. Many in the team have been actively calling for care and launching initiatives of support for the most vulnerable and the ones in need. So to introduce this project we are working on, and for which today we want to have a prelude, I can re-quote Bonaventure, and he already explained in some way extensively what the Raupenimmersattism is and how our project grapples with what affluence, growth, and degrowth have meant and means now and will mean to society, with a particular situated reflection in the context of Berlin and Germany. And I want to reconstruct a little bit how we got there. So last year, following a proposition by Bonaventure, with his omnivorous hunger for discussions, we began thinking about these issues and trying to problematize the myth of endless consumption and our cultures of affluence. We began looking at the paradoxes of a space like Germany and other strong economies, whose strength, more often than not, relies on the weakness of others. What we wanted to understand is the sudden possibility of change, the violence embedded in structures we inhabit so precariously, and the possibilities or impossibilities of a sustainable future. Today, in these months, these thoughts have gained an unprecedented and unforeseen significance, of course. As COVID-19 spread around the world and markets suddenly crashed, we witnessed and confronted ourselves more clearly than ever, probably, with the pitfalls of capitalist economy. And we witnessed the vulnerability of bodies and infrastructures within such economies. And of course, even more sad, we witnessed the frail limits of European and global solidarity. Tonight, with a multi-layered conversation, we want to understand together and analyze these ideologies of labor and problematize the exposure of essential workers and the disposabilities of bodies by asking what work counts and what doesn't, what work gets seen and what doesn't. In the 30s, hello, I'm hearing somebody. Okay, I continue to come to a conclusion. I want to also make this reflection that if in the 30s, the economic crisis, the so-called Great Depression, created a fertile ground for the rise of fascist governments in Europe, in the second decade of the century, then, with the so-called Great Recession, that was the financial crisis in 2008 and 9, the economic struggles for neoliberal sovereignty have been assisting the rise of the far right. So austerity policies have crafted the ground for discriminatory social welfare Darwinism and national economic policies. For example, slogans like America First or Prima gli Italiani and so on have been coined. And again, a primacy of economic support has been coupled to nationalist logics, pairing growth and nation. Interestingly, the ranks of European far right did not come anymore from the underprivileged and marginalized, but also and especially from the middle class. The consequences of that global financial bursting are still affecting our societies, and where extremes of wealth and poverty have been fueling these plutocracies in which we live in, with dangerous forms of populism. So now we still don't know where this crisis is going to take us, but in this unparalleled turning point, engaging with this cogitation seems not just relevant, but really needed. For that reason, and I'm coming to a conclusion, together we would like to reflect on the pathological, structural, and spiritual violence, as our colleague Abhishek Nilamber mentioned when proposing internally another upcoming online program. We are concerned about the violence. This violence that was made even more evident with this crisis, while also we will try to contemplate new forms of resilience and resistance. In fact, we are convening here because to challenge and broaden existing notions of labor and production, we think it is crucial to underline the perspective of care and care work. We probably said that many times already, but I think it's crucial to understand that for us at Savi, the focus on care and reproductive labor as a community is crucial, and not only as a field of inquiry, but as a practice. Care work and reproductive work, we all know, have been historically one of the most exploitative, flexible, and invisible forms of labor performed by women, people of color, and all those who have been victims of patriarchal and racist structures. In this diasporic reality that most of us at Savi are living, without the possibility of relying on care provided through families, family friendships, and other types of relatives networks, all of us perform care work and contribute to the sustenance and well-being of others. Our relations of mutuality, sharing, reciprocity between us in the team, with the artists that are with us and the thinkers we work with, and also with the audience, of course, that is visiting us and engaging with our program. These relations sustain our daily lives and social, and all a high element of care. In fact, I would say that care work in that sense is our commons. So tonight we wish to address power structures and relations of collaboration, not only, and to be more precise now, in land cultivation, but also in working conditions. We aim to do so by empowering these practices of mutuality, collaboration, sharing, and giving space to community-engaged projects, and experimenting with the possibility of changing and going beyond the existing capitalist infrastructures we inhabit. So the evening will unfold now in 1 minute with interventions, musical intervals, and discussions, and will be moderated by our colleagues Arlette Ndakose and Antonia Lampi. So if we begin by listening to the children recounting the story of the Raupenimmersattism, the very hungry caterpillar, that symbolize this hungriness and the greediness also of the capitalist society, but that also wants to remind us that by stopping and listening, one could eventually fly. Now we will continue with discussions and with the possibility of discussing with workers, representative of workers' collectives, debating about the ways they are seeking to deal with the current crisis and beyond. So we will also engage with trying to learn from pre-colonial Solidarian workers model. The example we will discuss tonight is the one of the Fraternité d'Hivernage, an inhabitant contract that was practiced in Senegal, again after the independence, to rebalance the politics of work after the disaster of colonialism. So I think I'm late, but to end, and before passing to my colleagues, I would like to read a short extract from a
Ciao, io non vi sento, mi sa bene. Maybe I can't hearing.
अनि राम्ररी बाँधेको हो भनेको हो रे तानम रे तानम बिस्तारै तानम
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you. Emilia, Nadia, I see. Is it normal that we don't see each other? I see the names, but I don't see the videos. I see the video, which I guess is what is playing on Sunday. I'm not sure. I see a video in the background. Oh, no.
Yes, I hear you, Ranab. You hear me? Let me call Bouba.
Oui. Je vous entends bien.
Ah, très bien.
Je t'entends bien.
Super.
Tu m'entends, hein?
Oui.
D'accord, ok. Est-ce que tu me vois?
Non, je ne vois personne. I don't see anyone. But maybe this must be like this in the beginning. Je crois qu'au début c'est comme ça.
चिनमा हराउने हजुर चिनमै बिलाउने चिनमा हराउने हजुर चिनमै बिलाउने मन किन काटक चोला एक पटक एक थोपा पानी हजुर सन्तुकीलाई घाटक एक थोपा पानी हजुर सन्तुकीलाई घाटक हात नरहे हजुर साथ नरहे हात नरहे हजुर साथ नरहे मन किन काटक रात एक पटक सपनी एक आँखा भरी निदरीलाई घाटक सपनी एक आँखा भरी निदरीलाई घाटक मनका भार बाँडेर बोकौँ आधी चले काँध बाँध जोडेर छेकौँ बाटामा मान्छु हजुर बिछ्या छन् काँडा आँखा अघि भिरालो आकाशे डाँडा उठौ अब जुटौ सब चट्टान घाँसे कि पानी पानी बनाइदिउँ हजुर हात नमार यो रात नहार मन किन कटक बाधा एक फगत एक थोपा रगत हजुर जिन्दगीलाई जगत एक थोपा रगत हजुर जिन्दगीलाई जगत छिनमा
I don't know what is happening. Am I disconnected? I don't hear anything.
Hello?
I'm sorry all, but I do not. Yeah.
Huh? Easy, now easy about. Yeah. Man boy.
Struggle of migrant workers, and in particular, one of the reasons why or one of the focuses of the conversation will be around something that he founded, which is the agricultural cooperative of Somanki di Cura in Mali. Then we will have Beatrice Gakuba, who's the director of the African Women Agribusiness Network, and Siraj Izhar, who's a London-based social activist and artist, and very prolific writer also. And I invite you to also read him on the occasional, where he says he writes occasionally on the blog amplife.org. I will move now to my conversation with Nadia, and I have to ask whether any of what I'm saying is actually to be heard. Yes, Nadia, you're there.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to understand whether people can actually hear us. Yes, they can. Okay, Nadia, thank you so much for being with us. I would like to really start the conversation by asking you to really define briefly for our audiences the Piana di Gioia Tauro itself, and really the problems that define it between mafia and corruption, and of course how those have also been sort of related to an infrastructural underdevelopment in the region, poverty, and of course exploitation. Just for you to know, Nadia will speak in Italian and I will subsequently translate her into English. Nadia, tu sai già la mia domanda perché te l'avevo mandata, però appunto volevo iniziare con...
Sì, ti ho capita.
Wait a minute, something is happening. Ma tu pure senti questa musica?
No.
Ok.
Solo la tua voce.
Ok, io sento una musica in sottofondo, ma... Ok, well...
Sì.
I'm just giving this message to Ranav. Ranav, I hear a music, which is a very interesting experience, but it's not going to be easy for me to translate like this.
Ok.
Okay, I'll try to understand. Nadia.
Ok, insomma, grazie a voi, ciao a tutti e buon primo maggio a tutti. Sì, la Piana di Gioia Tauro è una superficie di 200, circa 40 km quadrati nella provincia di Reggio Calabria, in Calabria, che risulta essere la regione la penultima a sud regione dell'Italia, una regione la cui economia è fortemente condizionata e depressa, vive molto di settore primario, è poco industrializzata. Le prospettive economiche si basano sul turismo, sull'auspicato turismo. In questo contesto c'è un porto enorme, il primo porto per terminal transshipment in Italia, uno tra i
Just one
più grandi
second.
hub spontaneo.
Dammi ogni tanto tempo di tradurre. So La Piana di
Sì,
Gioia Tauro
perdona.
is basically no, of course, is a place in the south of Italy, Calabria, which is really the last region of the peninsula. It's currently defined, I mean, its activities, it's quite underdeveloped, she was saying, from an industrial perspective, and most of its income is right now actually very much related to tourism and specific types of agricultural work. It is also very famous for a port, a very big port. Nadia, you were... One second. It's defined by a very...
C'è un problema di base dei prezzi, per cui il costo dell'arancia parte già da prezzi bassi per la larga distribuzione, ma c'è anche il fatto che molte di queste aziende hanno destinato i loro frutti per la trasformazione in bibite o canditi, quindi anche il prezzo è differente.
So she was saying
infatti,
there is a huge pressure to... è meglio se stoppiamo ogni volta che finisci una frase perché sennò è difficile per me tradurre. So that generally the price I mean, to be essentially competitive right now with the current market prices, the price of fruits per kilo is extremely low. You were telling me actually yesterday it's almost like 13, like the way the price...
20.
Yeah, exactly. It's around 20 cents per kilo, actually. But also that many of the fruits are directly used for the creation actually of juices and oils and things like that, which again, as I was saying before, keeps the price even lower, which obviously has an effect, a direct effect on the working conditions. Yeah. Right.
C'è anche poi l'aggravante che anche nel settore agrumicolo all'interno della catena degli interessi delle mafie c'è anche quella dell'agromafia che avviene sul territorio col controllo dei terreni o della manodopera o del trasporto della merce, quindi poi anche del prezzo al mercato, come anche inchieste proprio di recente hanno evidenziato, inchieste
Cioè che la
giudiziarie.
mafia, sta dicendo che la mafia
Colla
ha
tutta la
essenzialmente...
filiera.
Okay, so what Nadia is saying is also how mafia essentially, which again, I don't know, sometimes we're cut, so 'ndrangheta, which is a particular type of mafia from Calabria, basically controls more or less all the different layers of the filiera, we say in Italian, which means they really go from the...
Il governo italiano, il legislatore italiano hanno tutelato, diciamo, il lavoratore con la legge anticaporalato.
Scusa, ero uscita praticamente dalla connessione per l'ultimo minuto.
Bella.
Per poter... I'm very sorry, but unfortunately my connection went off.
Dove in mezzo ci stanno le aziende e il tempo per eventuali richieste di indennità.
Okay, so basically what she's saying is, of course, the workers are really the lowest sort of in the chain in terms of exploitation. And that they basically have working hours conditions that are usually even more than 12 hours per day. That the most of the contracts that they receive are, I mean, either non-existent or half-existent. And so, I mean, essentially it is in the mafias and the interest even to keep workers illegal in order to be able to propose and perpetrate these types of, well, essentially working condition. Because Nadia, I would like now to zoom in into the settlement, the Piana di Gioia Tauro, of the workers themselves. And maybe you can tell us when they started, what are they based on, and how they're organized. Cioè, se potessi parlare... Nadia, mi senti?
Ora sì.
Ok, se potevi parlare proprio adesso dei campi della piana, ovvero quando sono iniziati, come è stato possibile... So it's almost 30 years, actually, that in the Piana, they are working with workers coming at the beginning, 30 years ago, it was more from North Africa, and now it's more sub-Saharan Africa. From different, tu mi dicevi, sono diversi stati africani, adesso in particolare?
Sì, oggi puoi trovare ma tutti, Mali, Senegal, Guinea, Gambia, Costa d'Avorio, Mauritania.
Esclusivamente? Solo?
Sì, per lo più. Cioè, mentre per esempio, per fare un riferimento in Puglia, mentre per la raccolta dei pomodori in Puglia ci sono anche molti stagionali che sono rumeni e bulgari, qui per lo più ci sono i subsahariani.
E perché?
Beh, forse Bulgaria e Romania è anche una meta per stagionali molto più vicina. Considera che in Puglia si lavora a circa 3 mesi, da Brindisi si arriva direttamente, quindi è anche più facile, perché anche lì diciamo che la condizione che andrò a descrivere dei campi qui è la stessa che poi ritrovi in Puglia, che poi ritrovi in Sicilia, che poi ritrovi in Basilicata e in Piemonte, che sono le 5 tappe nazionali.
So now I mean, we're trying to zoom in, and I'm sorry, but because of the constant disconnections, we're trying to keep with the time. So the types of, let's say, experiences and conditions that she's describing now that are, let's say, a feature of Calabria and La Piana are actually quite similar in different Italian regions that strive on agriculture, which almost always strives particular on seasonal laborers, who are mostly migrant workers, very often who do not also have, are not legalized, unfortunately, or are deemed illegal. Yeah. And I think I'm cut again. Nadia, tu mi senti? Nadia? Hello, Nadia?
Ti sento, mi sa. No. Antonia?
So you can hear me? We will try to do a bridge, as the connections in between this World Wide Web is something which is not stable, and that's also the topic of today. How do we deal with things that are not stable? Just want to make sure that you can still hear me as I am cut.
Yeah, I can hear you, Arlet, but I feel it goes on like this, and
Because Ranaf, I will proceed with the sound.
Yes, now I.
yeah, it's just that it's very strange because when one talk, we're not online right now, are we?